To truly understand the ramifications of what happened yesterday in Utah to Charlie Kirk, we need to look back 90 years ago to what happened to two Nazi Party members when they were also assassinated. Horst Wessel, who would go on to become one of the images of Nazi martyrdom culture. The other, Ernst von Rath, a diplomat in Paris, which would go to kick off Kristallnacht, or the Night of Shattered Glass, one of the earliest and usually considered the start of the Holocaust. So who was Horst Wessel? Well, he was a perfect young little Nazi. He was an SA member, the Sturmabteilung. He was also a leader in that organization, a storm leader, as they called them. Horst also was a literal pimp. He ran prostitutes, and this is what got him into trouble with some of the local communists, who would go on to shoot him in the literal face. Horst had been active in right-wing politics since he was 15 years old, and it's very important to understand that the Nazi Party was looking for someone to become a martyr. Their chief propagandist, Joseph Goebbels, had already tried to make other people martyrs for the Nazi Party, but in Horst Wessel, he found the perfect figure. Horst had spent much of the last 5 years doing street battles with the socialists and the communists, and being the perfect Nazi Party member. So before Horst was even dead, you had the entire propaganda arm of the party working in overtime to spin this into a major martyrdom cause. You had literally Joseph Goebbels meeting with this man's mother before she went to see him at the hospital. And in Horst, they found the picture-perfect icon of Nazism, and he would go on to inspire many, many things surrounding the culture and cult of Nazi martyrdom. Not only was Horst ubiquitous in Nazi propaganda, the official song of the Nazi Party was changed to his name. The Horst Wessel song it became known as, and a few short years later, it would become the co-national anthem of Nazi Germany. Historian Alan Wilkes would note in the Nuremberg rallies that he did a lot more for the Nazi Party image as a dead pimp than he'd ever done as a live party member. And something to really keep in mind is this all happens before the Nazis are in power. And we can see this already in the martyrdom cult that has sprung up around Ashley Babbitt, the Jan 6 rioter, or Lincoln Riley. We also saw people immediately spinning up conspiracy theories that this was the responsibility of one of their perceived political enemies. This is still ongoing and escalating. Now, the second death in 1938, 5 years into the Nazi rule, shows us a much darker potential of where this could lead to. Because the assassination in Paris of Ernst von Rath, that leads us directly into Kristallnacht, or the Night of Shattered Glass, that dozens and dozens of Jewish people were killed, thousands of businesses and homes were ransacked, and synagogues burned to the ground in the hundreds. It is also a time where one of my relatives and her husband were shot in their living room, an old woman and her husband. Because in 1938, 8 years after Horst Wessel, they had mastered the creativity and the marketing of martyr culture, and it became a desired thing to do, to sacrifice yourself for your nation and race. The November pogroms of September 9th and 10th went on, in many cases for weeks in some parts of Germany, Austria, and Czechoslovakia. And we have to understand, this is about a year before World War II kicks off with the invasion of Poland. Well, at least in Europe, as Imperial Japan and Fascist Italy had already launched their wars many years earlier. And this fanaticism will continue growing until the war's end. And for some people, they never broke with their fanatical devotion to the Nazi cause. Fascists create martyrs so that they can inspire more violence and inspire people to join their cause and sacrifice themselves for it. This is the value of it, and it is very powerful, especially infused with the politics and religious culture of the movement. Charlie Kirk is now a symbol for a much darker politics than even the politics that he spread, a politics that demands vengeance, and one that is being called for by some of the richest and most powerful people on Earth right now, as I speak, all across the internet. The normalization of assassination as a political tactic is something that causes a democracy to collapse. Because once this is seen as something that is okay to use, it will be used, and often. Right now, even though things are incredibly terrible in the United States, it is only seeing a fraction of the violence possible in a fascist takeover, and not even half of what was happening in late Weimar. We cannot even imagine how dangerous this could go if these norms are finally transgressed in full. Right now, we are on the razor's edge, but I can tell you, after Utah, well, Things are very different now. Now, please do some engagement, please donate if you can, and I would love it if you could leave some comments below.